Sometimes in the heat of the moment, something happens, and it's hard to say, okay, I got to start in a place of love, because it's right there.
Well,
It's right there.
the emotions are up here, but if you sometimes you just need to step back, say, well, okay, hold on, and you gather your thoughts. Maybe even send a prayer up and say, Lord, I don't want to start this wrong. Well, some good stuff right there from Dr. Mike on the beach about criticism. We're here with our kitchen couples, Mike and Diane, Eric and Kara. So, that's something we all deal with is this criticism. It's so easy to launch into criticism when the emotions are high. But there's this study that was done by Dr. John Gottman, one of the foremost researchers in marriage and relationships. And something he calls the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse.
With your marriage.
Meaning the end is near if these behaviors are exhibited. And the number 1, he said, is criticism.
Wow.
Yeah.
Criticism.
I believe it.
And so, you have that emotional thing. You want to launch in and call your spouse, a blankety blank or whatever, and it just becomes a personal attack.
No.
But he gave us some good strategies.
Well, I love the fact that he said that it's the attitude with which you do it. You're not attacking. It's all about sharing your heart, not attacking their heart. You want to do it in love, and absolutely share a complaint, but don't criticize. Don't have that critical spirit.
It's that starting point again, right? If we look at where we start, right? So again, we talked about love a little bit earlier and how love, right, thinks about the other person first. It's very hard to be critical when you're thinking about the other person first, right? In Hebrews, it tells us to encourage each other to love and good deeds, right? And so as we think about this and we practice, if we could sort of shift the beginning, we need to talk about this criticism and all that and working this through. But if we could learn to start in a different place, right? And start in that place of love, it really helps us to stay away from a lot of the things that we're talking about.
But like Ron was saying, sometimes in the heat of the moment, something happens, and it's hard to say, okay, I got to start in a place of love, because it's right there.
Well,
it's
the emotions are up here, but sometimes you just need to step back, say, well, okay, hold on, and you gather your thoughts. Maybe even send a prayer up and say, Lord, I don't want to start this wrong, and you can start at a level that's going to
take a breath.
Even though it's right there, you take that deep breath. Sends it right back.
Oh, there you go.
Ready? Just gotta think about that motivation, about that love.
Just walk away. I know I have to do that sometimes. You have to just step away and just go do something else. Think about it. And then when you think that you're ready to have that conversation, then you have the conversation. But because when you speak in the heat of the moment, bad things are said every time. Bad things are said every time. And so you have to be careful with that.
There's a saying, it's better to be silent and to be thought of as ignorant than to speak and remove all doubt.
Absolutely.
My dad always used to say, you got to put your brain in gear before you put your mouth in action. And so you got to think through, how is what I'm about to say going to affect this relationship?
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Thoughts, guys? You're still kind of young in the whole marriage thing.
Well, we have caught ourselves criticizing, and hearing Dr. Mike show the differences between complaining and criticism, I can kind of think back and see that maybe some of the things that I say are criticism and is an attack, and I never mean it to be like that, but I guess that's some way the way it's taken. Us being both pastors at the same church, she's my best volunteer in my ministries, and I like to say I'm her best volunteer in her ministry. Okay, there it is. We see how each other kind of leads the ministry, and not every time. It's the way that I would lead the ministry, and in her situation, it's not every time that she would lead the ministry, so she could see the difference and how she would want me to improve and how I'd want her to improve. But like in each other's minds, it's not that we need to improve; it's just that we need to have that discussion in a I don't know, airing
loving
a
way.
complaint
loving way.
instead of
Yes.
saying
That's
you
really
you need to
interesting.
change
Yeah.
this, instead of
So
saying I
we've-
feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've started learning how to encourage each other, because when you're both leading a ministry, you have to change from the role of the leader to now a supporter. And sometimes that's not always the easiest, especially when you're married to that leader. And when you
a
go
Sunday
home,
morning, you might have to do it on the fly, because you're in a conversation with a family. I'm talking to the teenager, the young adult, and she's talking to the kid. But then we kind of switch roles, and like on the fly, we got to be like, I'm now right now in this conversation, I'm her volunteer, and right now in this conversation, she's the leader. But then we're talking to the young adult, and it's just kind of switches right there.
So before you ever get there, you have to have a foundation and an agreement of how you're going to react, how you're going to respond, and know, like, plan it through, think it through before you're in that position.
The word that comes to mind for me is the Japanese kaizen. Right? So kaizen means continuous improvement. So there are times where we get to the point where we just need someone to help us. We need counsel and someone to help. But for most of us, right, it is learning to make those little adjustments, those small adjustments over time. Great change usually doesn't happen, or doesn't always happen with an epiphany, right? It's actually doing the little things. And when we do the little things, it usually we don't get it to the point where it is huge and it's uncontrollable. We can't
And we
control
spoke
it.
about that earlier,
So,
the little things.
The little
thinking
things.
about it, and the coaching here is so important and so imperative, and making those small changes a little bit at a time.
Yeah, a little bit of time. I like that.
Yeah. And so, and I like what he said, that it needs to be a safe place. The marriage has to be a safe place to even bring up, a complaint. Different than a criticism, but a complaint, just to share a concern, and that's important as well. Now, we're going to be back at the beach in a little bit with Dr. Mike again, and he's going to actually tackle another one of these 4 horsemen of the apocalypse called defensiveness, and that's coming up. So stay with us.
Stay with us.
You're creating a spot where they need to defend themselves, when you are the one that protects them. You are the one that defends them, but now you're creating for them to actually defend against you.